Look, mech paintball is putting the fun back into the fundamentals of paintball, okay? Oh, but the fundamentals don't sell paint, ooh ah. I don't care, you're not stopping this wave. Mech is unstoppable. It's more fun to watch, it's more fun to play, and it's just better for the sport. Mech is a better way to play paintball. And usually opposition to that statement comes from people who can't shoot for shit.
Let's be frank, our sports funds come from players almost entirely, not spectators like most sports. Paint sales are huge for events and the sport in and of itself, and winning is almost directly tied to having a paint budget large enough to master the locking of the layout with lanes.
I don't care what anybody else says at this point. I truly believe that professional format paintball is boring to watch unless you're invested in it, unless you're trying to learn about some plays or you're figuring out how a player plays. There's no such thing as a casual paintball fan or a casual spectator for pro paintball. It just isn't a thing. It's a lot like chess, but noisier. And that's okay if that's what you want to be. But I'm skeptical about that. I'm not sure that's what we want. Essentially, there's a way around that, and that's mech paintball. Mech paintball sort of breaks with the lane locking strategies that dominates X-ball, and it opens up the field. It allows for creative plays. It allows for gun battles to occur and have skill win here. And isn't that exciting? When there's two players engaged in a gun battle, that is just so satisfying to watch. The crowd usually goes wild. It's nuts, and it's a lot of fun. There's still a lot of strategy that goes into it, but at the same time, it's more dynamic. It's very reliant on players' ability to think on their feet and make smart moves. Make moves, and just overall, I've enjoyed watching mech paintball a lot more, and I think most people who really get into it, just overall, I enjoy watching mech paintball more because there's more interesting stuff going on.
It's hard to argue with the fact that some of the most exciting innovation we've seen in the sport since World Cup 2017 has come in the form of mech markers and conversions.
Autocockers are making a comeback, for fiddlefuck's sake, and they're better than ever, they're more advanced than ever, and I just haven't had the pleasure to shoot them because it's kind of a pain in the ass to get paintball guns in the country I live in, but I'd be all over that if it were easier to get. And it's really cool that when you pull the trigger on a mech marker, the trigger is actually doing something. It's not just activating a micro switch that'll activate a solenoid and then the electronics take care of the rest. It has a mechanical impact on the mechanism of the marker, and that is so refreshing and it feels so good. It gives the marker a bit of soul. Compare this Planet Eclipse eMech with the shell of this Ether 2. This looks lifeless, and that's because it is, because it houses an electro marker. But seriously, here's a drone 2, and here's an eMech. I can feel that. I'm gonna gas this up. Take a look at this. Safety off. I'm gonna put my finger on so I don't let off a blast, but the trigger has a mechanism. You can feel the bite. Sort of, it's not a sear, but it's almost like a sear on a firearm. It catches. That's a great trigger pull when you let go. That reset, it's real. It's a real trigger, and that feels great.
And considering that the PAL system manages to incorporate a subtle yet functional mechanism for the marker's shot to load paint in a much cleaner package than the Cyclone feed, I'm optimistic that the best is yet to come.
And what I can't wait to see is that once we dominate the paintball market with paintball markers, how we're going to see technology advance. The PALS loader by Eclipse was a very nice step forward. Having a pneumatically stimulated loader, that's a great step. Now, a pneumatically fed system that isn't as bulky as what you get on the Cyclone feed, that is the next step, and I can't wait to see that. But that's not where it all ends. There's possibilities, let's say figuring out a mechanical solution to eyes, and I think we're all winning here, except the electronic engineers that make magic happen with electronic markers. It sucks because they've done the paintball gods' work here. They've made our markers better than ever. They've been a huge part of that. But at the same time, I'm fairly confident that most manufacturers struggle more training their techs on electronics than they do on the mechanical side of things. And if that's techs, like mechanically oriented folks, imagine the casual player that needs to maintain their marker frequently and take care of electronics. I'm sure I'm not the only one. Raise your hand if this is you too. But I've been grounded with a non-functioning marker that only requires like $300 worth of electronics to fix. Everything else on it is wonderfully fine, but I've got a burnt board or solenoid or something, and that is a pain. It's something you don't have to deal with as often. Mech markers. But don't take this as me denying that something like this is far more capable than a mech equivalent, which, by the way, I'm dying to get. The reason is I just can't splash the cash for it right now. But mech frame on the CS2, that would rock. But really, with the current competitive format, you're sort of bottlenecked with the capabilities of the marker and what you can actually do with them. 10 BPS, 10 to 11 BPS. These markers can do so much more. These markers have triggers that can do so much more as well. They're designed so thoughtfully. The electronics here are so well thought out. To shoot 10 BPS? Shooting 10 BPS is a skill in mechanical paintball, and it's valuable there. So if you're able to hold up a lane in a mechanical game at that rate of fire, dude, you earned that. But for anyone to stick their toe from back right and just lock a part of the field, opening up the field to sit back and just play the one-handed lane game is boring. And trust me, paintball being boring is not what we need right now. And I hate that because these markers are so capable, they can do so much more, but the way we play paintball right now makes these markers an element of boredom. And, well, it sucks to watch. It's a word that's very often used, overused, and misused, but there is no mistake here. It's just a hell of a lot of fun. It's the most fun. Anyone can make it work for really cheap. Take an eMech, that's a little bit under 300 bucks. Take one of these Pro Toy Speedster loaders, they're under 100 bucks. Take a carbon fiber tank, around 100 bucks. And you have a terrific setup that you can beat the living daylights out of. Like, we're gonna destroy this loader. We're gonna beat it up hard in a couple of videos. That's coming, but you could beat that setup up, you can use it hard, and it's a hell of a setup for rec ball. And not just that, you can upgrade it. It's actually one of the few instances where I 100% support getting a different barrel, because the stock barrel on the eMech isn't, it's not very impressive. But you get a pops, you get a nice barrel on it, there's some other doodads you can add to that. You can really customize these, which is something I'm gonna look into. Might do something really special to this eMech. You can customize an eMech to the point where it's unrecognizable, and they're just phenomenal shooters, they're phenomenal markers, and it'll grow with you. So it starts with a $500 investment in a proper gun setup for new players. That is not too much money considering how some markers cost 3 times that. And you're still gonna be able to wreck those guys. Point is that at the end of the day, what matters is, do you have the skills to pay the bills? Do you understand the fundamentals Are you a smart player? And mech paintball rewards that. It rewards skill, it rewards intelligence. It's just plain rewarding. My friends, let's overtake the industry with mech awesomeness and just get on the mech train and rock it hard. Have fun, and don't forget to invest in index funds. It's an easy way to ensure that you're still gonna have money even as a pew pew ball player. That's been it. See you next time around, guys. Rock and roll.